In every photograph of the 1998 flood, the same man stood across from Laura Finch's childhood home. The rain blurred cars, windows, and faces, but his long black coat was perfectly dry. In each picture, he was looking directly at the camera. Laura noticed him 26 years later while preparing an anniversary story for the local news in Bellwether Bay. 3 days of storms had pushed the river over its lower wall, and the editor wanted old photographs to accompany the evacuation report. Laura enlarged one image, then another. The man changed position between frames, moving from the bus shelter to the middle of the flooded street, but no footprints connected the two places. Her mother, Mara, saw the photographs on Laura's kitchen table and turned them face down. "Don't print him," she said. "He notices families who remember him." Laura assumed grief had reopened an old wound. Her father, Daniel, had died during that flood after pulling 6-year-old Laura from a drainage channel. His body was found 2 miles downstream. Mara had never spoken clearly about the hour between Laura's rescue and Daniel's disappearance. That night, Laura tested the photographs instead of trusting memory. She scanned the negatives at high resolution. The emulsion around the man was intact. Dust and scratches crossed everything except his coat. Facial recognition software produced a different result on every frame. An old man, a young woman, a child, no face at all. Only the coat remained identical, down to one pale button at the throat. At 2:13 in the morning, wet footsteps crossed Laura's locked hallway. They began 3 paces inside the front door and ended at a heating vent beneath the stairs. When Laura lifted the grill, she found a biscuit tin sealed under the floorboards. Inside were her childhood drawings, a cassette labeled "The Night of the Water," and a Polaroid she had never seen. The picture showed Mara kneeling beside the flooded channel, holding Laura's blue raincoat. A dry man stood ankle-deep in the torrent. On the white border, in Mara's handwriting, were 6 words. "I gave him Daniel's name." Laura brought the cassette to the station. Sound engineer Owen Price cleaned the tape while rain rattled the studio windows. Beneath the roar of water, Mara's younger voice begged someone to bring Laura back. A man's voice answered from very close to the microphone. A life carried out, a name carried in. Then Mara said Daniel's full name. The tape ended with wet footsteps and Laura coughing. Owen removed his headphones. "Who was standing behind your mother?" Laura turned. The studio was empty, but a trail of water crossed the carpet and stopped beneath the weather screen. The next morning, she searched decades of local archives. The same coat appeared before 9 storm night disappearances. Witnesses disagreed about the face, height, and age of the person wearing it. They agreed on 3 details: the coat was dry, the left hand hung open, and the figure faced whoever would later speak the missing person's name. One report contained a rule. In 1961, a ferryman's widow wrote that the Rain Man could not choose a victim. He could only collect a name freely spoken beneath a roof while rain was falling. The rescued person had to hear the name. Once the bargain was made, the man followed the named person through the nearest reflection of rain, window glass, a puddle, even a television picture. Silence delayed him. It did not cancel the debt. Her mother did not deny it. During the 1998 flood, Daniel had been trapped on the far bank while Laura was swept into the culvert. The dry man appeared beside Mara and offered to carry Laura out. Mara believed she was naming the person she wanted him to save next. Only when Daniel walked toward the house and the man turned to follow him did she understand the bargain. "Your father knew," Mara whispered. "He went back into the water before it could reach you again." Daniel's death had interrupted the collection, but it had not fulfilled it. Every major storm since then, the man had returned closer to the house. Mara hid the photographs and refused to say Daniel's name during rain. Now Laura had played the recording aloud. The debt had heard its name again. By afternoon, Owen was missing. Security footage showed him entering the empty weather studio. On the monitor, simulated rain fell behind the forecast map. The dry man stepped out of the screen, and Owen followed him back through it. Police found Owen's shoes beneath the display. Nothing else was wet. Laura blamed herself, but the footage revealed something useful. The man moved only while a spoken name was audible. When Owen muted the studio feed, the figure froze halfway through the screen. When the emergency broadcast restored sound, it moved again. Bellwether Bay's emergency channel would carry a live report explaining the pattern without naming any victim. Thousands of witnesses would see the bargain, stripping it of the secrecy that had protected it. Owen's final audio would be played backward and without names. If the man appeared, Laura would cut every microphone and the transmitter at once. Mara begged her to leave town. Laura refused. Running would move the next storm, not end the debt. At 9:40 that evening, Laura stood before the weather screen. The broadcast began with the flood photographs. She described the coat, the rule, and the disappearances. She never spoke her father's name. In the control room, Mara watched the rain intensify on every exterior camera. Then, water began running upward across the studio windows. The weather graphic changed without input. A small black figure appeared beneath the rain icon. It grew with each flash of lightning until the man stood life-sized inside the screen. His coat was dry, his face looked like Daniel's. Mara entered the studio and gasped her husband's name. The man stepped through. Laura killed her microphone, but the emergency system stayed live. The storm had shorted the control board into broadcast mode. Every word in the room was reaching the town. The man extended his open hand toward Mara. Wet footsteps sounded behind Laura, though nobody was there. She understood the trap. Public attention had not weakened the bargain. It had given it thousands of new roofs, speakers, and screens. Laura pulled the fire alarm. Steel shutters dropped over the control room windows, severing the studio from the transmitter. Backup power gave her 11 seconds before the remote feed returned. There was time to say one name. She looked at Mara and spoke her own. The man turned away from her mother. Rain fell inside the studio. Laura backed toward the black weather screen while Mara beat against the shutter. The dry man followed. At the final second, Laura tore the transmission cable from the wall. The picture collapsed into static, taking both of them with it. Owen returned at dawn, barefoot and unable to remember where he had been. Mara survived. No one else disappeared. The station called Laura's action a fatal electrical accident, although no body was recovered. For a week, the archived broadcast contained only weather warnings and 11 seconds of black screen. Then viewers began sending screenshots from weather apps around the country. Beneath the rain icon stood a tiny figure in a long coat. It did not face the forecast map, it faced outward. And in the reflection beside it, Laura Finch was holding the man's open hand.